So, this is Dr. Freeman. At last. I wish I could say this was a pleasant surprise, but it's neither a surprise nor, as you will surely agree, very pleasant. Well, I am nothing if not pragmatic. Well, Dr. Freeman, under other circumstances, I like to think we might have been able to work together in an atmosphere of mutual trust and respect. Certainly, judging from your brief tenure at Black Mesa while I was its administrator, you showed every promise of becoming a valuable and productive contributor to the scientific process. And yet, I'm not sure what spurred you to it. But there is really no place in this enterprise for a rogue physicist. Your mentors are partly to blame, of course. My disappointment in Eli Vance and Isaac Kleiner is far greater than my sorrow over your unfortunate choice of career path. In a way, I suppose you could not have done otherwise. Who knows what seeds of iconoclasm they planted when you were young and gullible, but while they certainly share a great part of the responsibility for the recent troubles, it is you alone who have chosen to act with such willful disregard for humanity's future. destroyed so much. What is it exactly that you have created? Can you name even one thing? I thought not. For humanity's survival. And not as we have narrowly defined ourselves, but as something greater than we could ever imagine. Something we can now only begin to glimpse. Look at what you are throwing away. Is it worth it?
Citadel is certainly an imposing structure, but Valve's team also wanted to make everything about it invasive. The Combine walls surrounding it expand into the city, demolishing buildings as the Citadel itself digs into the ground, creating a giant chasm. This scene was originally going to feature citizens atop the cliffs above the player, attacking the Citadel and firing rockets at it. However, it was later decided that it'd be better to have the player be alone, and evoke the feeling of a lone knight entering the fortress of his enemy.
The gunship repair bay glimpsed here is actually the only surviving bits of a level that was originally planned for Nova Prospekt. The original repair bay sequence actually went through a lot of playtesting before it was cut. The level was also to feature movable cranes that the player would control, and naked gunships with their armor removed. As the player left the area, soldiers and antlions were to enter, creating a raging battle that was to ignite fuel lines, engulfing everything in flames.
Today, many video games are far more than just games. They are experiences. While many still provide challenges, the challenge is not always the main focus. Today's games are about being immersed in the world, the narrative, the game's flow, and the sense of adventure. The long-time standard of a game becoming increasingly challenging as the game progresses is breaking down to a certain extent. Games are now more commonly designed to keep pace with the player's growing skill, instead of always being one step ahead of it. Half-Life 2 does do this for the most part. However, the game's difficulty doesn't peak at the end, it takes a dive. Instead of the Citadel being a harsh and grueling challenge, the gravity gun is supercharged, and this allows the player to plow through the Combine's last defenses. The Citadel is a very cold, soulless, and imposing place, and while it certainly keeps players on edge, the player's journey through the Citadel is more of a reward than a challenge.
DirectX 9 was the newest version of Microsoft's multimedia-based application programming interface at the time of Half-Life 2's release, and with it came more tools than ever before for shaders. A shader is a program that dictates how something is drawn by a computer, and in modern games is closely related to how surfaces are affected by light. As Half-Life 2 features many different materials which react to light in many different ways, shaders were important to Half-Life 2. One particularly important use was the emulation of specular reflectivity for the rendering of glossy surfaces such as metal and plastic. Valve did thorough research in order to get the reflectivity and specularity exactly right for the different materials in order to have a very specific material library. Instead of having reflections generated in real time, which was very resource consuming in 2004, a 360-degree render of an area is generated for several different points in each map. These renders are referred to as cube maps, and these static 360-degree images are what you will see reflected off of objects and surfaces while in-game.
Bump mapping is a method of adding the appearance of depth to a texture without having to render extra polygons in the game. It allows texture artists to determine how light hits a texture, creating the appearance of ripples, creases, or bumps on an otherwise smooth surface. This gives it a less flat appearance. Most of the bump maps for Half-Life 2 were made within a month, and were created using a polygonal render of the texture's surface.
Some of the earliest concepts of the Citadel's exterior depicted it as a mixture of European and alien architecture. While this approach was abandoned for the exterior, the interior was based on the totalitarian architecture of Nazi and communist regimes. What makes the Citadel distinctly different, however, is a lack of symmetry, which is intended to create tension.
The concept of the Stalkers started out with creatures that would follow the player in the shadows, and then jump out. This idea wasn't really the final application for the Stalkers, but they became even more horrifying as their visual design was worked out. They became captured humans who were gutted, amputated, weaponized, crazed, and mentally unstable slave laborers for the Combine. While they are technically enemies of the player, the fact that they are also victims made players pity them, creating a sense of moral ambiguity. This made them much more horrifying than the typical monster.